Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Deep Dive Film School uses the footage only for purposes of education, commentary, and criticism under fair use. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School!
This week, we're going to finish out our Rising Female Filmmakers Festival with 2019's Booksmart by Olivia Wilde.
Let's dive on in. All right, everybody, I am Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Palcher.
And if you like what you see / hear, please like and subscribe to our many, I was going to say ports of entry. I guess, is that right? Sure. I like to use maritime terminologies occasionally. But yes, it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all your ports of entry.
You're selling this so well. You're so good at it. Thank you.
And be sure to actually click the little bell. What's it called? The
notification bell will let you know anytime we have a new episode.
That's right.
We encourage you guys to play along and have fun with us during these festivals. That's the point of this show. So,
and I will actually say, in playing along, this episode in particular, I would like to make a point of maybe not spoiling stuff here, because I think people really should go watch Booksmart. I'm just going to throw that out up front, is that I don't feel like enough people saw this movie, and I think that that's a damn shame. So even though our bumper at the beginning says, we're going to spoil the hell out of this time we're not going to, because I really want people to see this thing.
I didn't know that. I didn't know we weren't spoiling.
Well, we haven't
talk about
it. Why don't you give us a little bit of back history on Booksmart?
Yeah, so this movie came out last year, directed by Olivia Wilde, written by 4 different women. We have kind of a really solid comedic cast here, with Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Dever, who are the 2 main girls here.
They're fantastic. They are so naturally funny.
Absolutely. From scene 1, you're just like, oh, I love these girls.
They're just doing the dance moves to pump each other up, because it's the last day of school, last day of high school. And they are kind of the public school versions of Max Fisher from Rushmore, where they are like the overachiever when it comes to school related things, but they know nothing about anything else that's happening
outside
in the school.
Of life. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Like they have no social life. They worked their whole lives to be the valedictorian, which she shows us in this pump up speech that we get at the very beginning. That's amazing, and she's getting inspired by pictures of RGB and all that stuff. It's pretty funny. But we have an actually really solid comedic cast here outside of those 2 girls, who are, I would say, basically an unknown. Beanie was in Lady Bird, though. She was Lady Bird's best friend in that. But Jessica Williams from Daily Show, Jason Sudeikis, Lisa Kudrow, and Will Forte are her parents.
Will Forte, oh my God. I want a whole movie of his character in this.
Yeah. And then Skylar Gisondo, he is he's Jer Bear. He's fucking this guy. I saw him on the Righteous Gemstones HBO show. He's one
That's what he's from. Oh my God, it was bugging me so much.
Yeah, he's one of the sons in there that kind of turns on the family. And that's really all I know him for. But here as Jer Bear, oh my God, I want a whole movie about Jer Bear.
Oh yeah,
talk about whole movies. He had some traumatic shit that happened in his life. But I love these kind of movies though. It's an easy premise and it's just lots of fun, right? I think last week I called this the Super Bad with Girls, basically. How you would lay Boogie Nights over the top of Goodfellas, you could probably lay, like, from a structural storytelling standpoint, lay the story over Superbad, change a few things, and it's pretty close to what we have here, I think.
I completely agree. But those couple of changes that you're talking about are significant enough that, yes, this is very much like a movie like Superbad about 2 friends
Which I love. That's not talking bad about the movie either.
No, not at all. But I think what's
Superbad.
interesting is that not just is there this transformative change that we know is going to take place. It's tried and true territory where it's like the two best friends, last day of school, they're going to go off on their own, right? You mix in a little bit of can't hardly wait with we got to go to this party and be cool kids for once kind of a moment.
For sure, you got to have that. But yeah, you should have worked less, should have played more. They're trying to fit 4 years of fun into one night, and that's what we get to see. That's the movie.
But then I think, first of all, the larger arc of how they see themselves and see their classmates is very interesting and very different than anything I'd ever seen before. Where normally, you think about if we're going all the way back to our first like template for archetypes of high school types, we got to go back to Breakfast Club, right?
Of course.
And you have all of your kind of lanes that these characters exist in. And we have the same thing here where we do have, we see these wonderfully portrayed caricature stereotypes of the stoner kids, the theater kids, the jocks, the rich kids, and the nerds, right? And they're all kind of categorized in these really particular ways. But then the way this movie plays with who those characters actually are, and then within this realm of like, this movie is so clever and so funny. The lines of dialogue are just like I don't know. I need to watch this again next week because there's so many amazing jokes I missed.
Malala.
Yeah, Malala. Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
there's so many jokes I missed just by laughing at certain jokes and then my laughter covering up the next 5 or 6 just fantastic jokes that happened after it.
I agree. The writing here is very witty and fun and smart. These girls are infectious from scene 1 with their dancing and all that stuff. I think, we're talking about Molly and Amy here. Molly is Beanie Feldstein. Amy is the other girl. And I think they are intentionally making fun of this generation. And they really play into like kind of the over PC'd language of everything to hilarious effect, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
I think it has a great tone, a great sense of humor. But just little shit like she's going to like I can't remember the country, but she's going to help women make their own tampons, stuff like that.
Yep. Well, and she has she's gay. She's been out for 2 years, but she's never kissed a girl. The girl that she likes, how she approaches to see if that girl's gay too, is like, oh, I couldn't go to Somalia or whatever. They'd kill me there. And then she's like, what about you? Would you get killed in Somalia? Like, that's her trying to find out if the other girl is gay. I like all of this kind of stuff. The fact that they decide to watch porn, lesbian porn, so that she'll know what to do when she gets together with a girl. The way that all that stuff is handled feels very modern and really funny. And I will say that, I
do feel like we're spoiling things already, though.
Well, we just won't go overboard. But I would say, they're very much like in a comedy of years ago would have, this character finally gets the opportunity to make out with the hot chick or whatever, right? Sure. And then like to disastrous comedic effect. The fact that we have an opportunity to do that here with a gay sex scene, I think is really important, actually. I think that has that made me really happy to be like, oh, okay, we don't have to treat this moment as if it's this like historic bastion of equalness. Instead, like, it's a great opportunity for some super like cringy, like, oh God moments, which
first sex moments. And you're just like,
and you're like, oh, that's bad. Like
you don't see that a lot. Usually when that's portrayed in movies, especially between a gay couple, it is way more sexy, right?
It's usually treated much more seriously, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think like the adventure that our two characters that Amy and Holly go on here, just in an attempt to get to this, or Molly, sorry, just in an attempt to get to this party, this famed party, that's happening, that again, very much, generationally, they're seeing these epic clips of it that are being posted all over on social media. That's a great twist.
I agree. This is definitely like an 80s, 90s comedy ploy of this this epic party that everyone's going to, that it doesn't matter who you are, everyone's going to be there kind of thing. And putting technology into that and seeing people post Instagram stories and all this stuff about the party. But, searching for this address, is pretty much our first 2 acts, right? And we get to go through a lot of different things. We go to Jer Bear's party, which is like Guy Fieri's wet dream is what they call it.
Oh my God. Well, just that it's on a yacht and no one's there. And can we talk for 2 seconds about Billy Lord?
Sure.
Who plays Gigi.
Yeah.
Right? Who is, I guess, what, Jared's cousin, sister? Like, who is she supposed to be?
I don't know. They don't really say, but
is
she just keeps popping up.
Friend?
Yeah.
You never really find out. Yeah, because even they're asking, like, is that his girlfriend? Or, like, no one can really figure it out.
She's just a girl
but
who's always there. She's in every, you turn the corner and you saw her drunk back there, and you turn the corner and she's doing something else.
Oh my God. How does she get from one party to another in, like, 0 time flat? She jumps in the water at one point, but later she's dry. And they're like, how did you get dry? And she's like, how did you get dry? Like, there's just, she's this mysterious character. But what's funny is you say she's this girl that's always there. And the actress herself, Billy Lord, for the last several years has kind of been this girl that's always there, right? Like, obviously she is Carrie Fisher's daughter, right? Like, she appeared in the Star Wars movies as this kind of background character. She's popped up in 1 or 2 other things, and every time I'm like, not to be an asshole, but I just was like, oh, she's around because she's Carrie Fisher's daughter. Here, she steals every single scene she is in. She is so funny and so weird, and her portrayal as this like weird, ditzy, uber rich, crazy woman is so funny. And I had no idea that it was her until afterwards. I was like, oh my God, that's Billy Lord.
I know. She was definitely giving me Kate Hudson vibes here a little bit, right? You think of...
Totally.
Something like that where you're like, are you really that good of an actress? And then you're like, oh, yes, you are. You see Almost Famous and you're like,
yes, you are.
Yeah, you're awesome. So...
but yeah, I agree. This, and I think that was the moment, because the beginning of this movie was really funny. I really loved all of the great witty back and forth dialogue. Sure. I loved the soundtrack, which the score and the soundtrack was put together by Dan the Automator. I don't know if you're familiar, and does that Lovage project with Mike Patton.
Love Lovage.
So the Dan the Automator. So he did the soundtrack here, which again, I'm like, that's amazing. But that's why you have great, like one of my favorite Run the Jewels songs. It plays in this a couple of times, but I was like, okay, I really like this. And I kept going, okay, this is like a girl version of Superbad. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But when we get to Jer Bear's party is the moment when I went, oh, wait a minute. This is going to go to places that I can't even begin to understand.
Well, he calls it the SS lit as fuck.
Yeah, that's right.
prepare to get bashed.
Well, he calls it the SS lit, and then he says, as fuck. Actually, it's gonna be the SS lit as fuck.
Prepare to get bashed.
The constant like characters popping in and out with this like wide tapestry of adventures that our characters have to go on through like the murder mystery party and like with the drama kids and like
it's a frustrating adventure, but so much fun to watch. And you have to have these moments in a movie like this where they just can't find the way to get to the party. They think they're going to, and then something happens. It's a diversion from the real party, right?
The poppy fast banter of dialogue. This is a very common trope nowadays. I feel like it was something built by Anchorman, by that kind of era. Anchorman, 40-Year-Old Virgin, and Superbad. Built from kind of that era. And it's worth mentioning that Adam McKay and Will Ferrell were executive producers on Booksmart.
Okay. That makes sense.
But we've also seen how that fast banter, when being done through, improv style things in movies like Bridesmaids or the Ghostbusters remake, we can see how that's done poorly, right? Where it's like, you can't just let people riff. I mean, you can let Will Ferrell riff, but you can't just let anybody riff, right? Like you have to tie it to something.
Compare Bridesmaids to that new Ghostbusters remake. I think Bridesmaids is a really solid film.
I think the problem is Paul Feig made both, and he really relied upon his comedic actresses to just riff. True. And would let him like go and go and go, and then chop. It gets in. I mean, in that way, it's almost like writing comedy the way that you would produce a documentary, right? Which is you get a ton of footage, and then when you go into the editing room is when you build out your jokes. And I think that Bridesmaid is done better than Ghostbusters, but it's definitely the same technique there. And I think that by the time it got to the Ghostbusters era of that, people were tired of it, right? And we saw it with a lot of other Melissa McCarthy movies also that had the same problem, right? Of like, just let them riff. They'll do 32 takes and we'll pick the best ones out and those will be our jokes in the movie. And here, obviously, that's not true. Like, these are really well-written, very, very funny, punchy dialogue, but it feels improvisational, right? It feels loose and effortless, but each joke is landing so hard in such a great way.
It's very, very well written. There's so much funny shit that happens here. The watching the porn in the lift is up there with me. They call it a sex doc. Oh, it's like a sex documentary.
There are these jokes that are going to be so good that you can see them from a mile away, like them in the lift listening to, watching the porno or whatever, and knowing for a fact any minute now that's going to get plugged in to the car stereo
that their
system,
principal
and everyone's going to hear it.
Their principal is driving them too, right? Their principal, who's also Sudeikis, who's also their Lyft driver, and him telling him the female detective's novel that he has. It's so epic.
The baby kicks every time the clue comes about.
But by far, one of my favorite scenes is the Asian Waska, where they start tripping balls and they don't know kind of what's happening, and they both turn into Barbie dolls.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And here's what's interesting is, in the beginning of this review, I said, let's don't spoil it. But all of this that we're talking about is like, we're only 45 minutes into the movie. I was going to point. Like, there still is the whole arc of the movie after them turning into Barbie dolls.
I was going to say, you kind of contradicted yourself at the beginning because you're like, I need to watch this again next week because there's so many jokes that I forgot. I'm like, I don't think we're going to spoil anything. We could explain the Barbie doll scene, and you would still have to go see what we're talking about to enjoy.
Oh, totally. Well, and I guess more so than anything, it's the things that make this movie unique beyond a super bad classic, it's the last day of school, how do we change up our personalities, is kind of what I don't want to spoil, because it does emotionally go to a couple of crescendos in like the last 25 minutes that I was really impressed with, and that I felt like, boy, this movie could have been, completely unoriginal by its last scene, and I would still absolutely love it because of who these characters are that they've created, because of how funny it is, and because of just like what an interesting, weird world they've created. Because, when we did Lady Bird, I was talking about these are not heightened versions of these characters, right? Like, and I threw in, just to be tongue in cheek, a scene from Project X, the Todd Phillips movie, right? Of like, oh, this is what you are pretending like a sexy teenage party is like. Now, what Olivia Wilde does here is she does turn all of those characters up to 11, right? Our theater kids are incredibly over the top, to do that. Dramatically gay.
Yeah, that's why Can't Hardly Wait works, right? Is because you play into the tropes and the stereotyps of those types of high school groups and cliques. And I think it's super important.
Exactly.
But I also think that they have Olivia Wilde, like this Barbie scene, is completely unique and original. It's the whole movie's hilarious and just fun. But when they're just like smooth and flexible, and why would I?
It's insane. It's insanity. But then I think even beyond that, to be able to have those characters that are turned up to 11 that are like so over the top stereotypes of these characters. But then to play with the nuances of that, where it's like, but that's kind of how kids pretend to be. Like, obviously, these are them pretending to. This is how, if Lady Bird is Greta Gerwig as a woman in her mid-30s, looking back with a realistic lens of what she was actually like as a 17-year-old, then Booksmart is Olivia Wilde looking back as the lens through the lens of a teenager of how fucking cool everybody thinks they are, right? But then it plays with that narrative towards the end of the movie anyway. But I just love that it's like it does feel like this heightened cartoonish reality, but then it breaks it in these ways where, again, and actually, you know what's a good comparison for this, even though this seems totally outlandish, a good comparison for this is a movie like Brick.
Where I could see that a little
think
bit,
about,
but it also is got like Pretty in Pink in there too. I don't know, or 16.
Oh, for
16
sure. But
candles.
I guess the reason why I'm saying Brick is if you think about it, Brick has this moment where they're all at who is it? Lucas Haas, I think, is the one who plays like the kingpin in Brick or whatever. And they're like hanging out at his house, and he's like, and we're immersed in this Raymond Chandler-esque world, even though we know technically it takes place in high school, right? Technically these are teenagers, and but we're in this noir world. And then there's a moment where the door from upstairs opens up, and the mom comes down with like a plate of cookies or something, and it's like, I thought you guys would like refreshments. And he's like, thanks, Mom. And they're all like, thanks, Mrs. Johnson, or whatever. And then she leaves, and it's like the spell is just broken for a second. The same thing happens here where the theater kids are having their murder mystery party. Molly and Amy accidentally go into the kitchen and they're like, oh, are you guys done? And they're playing a puzzle. And it's like, do not talk to the guests. I said I have the house till 11 p.m. And it's like, it broke that spell for just a minute of like, oh, here's the way the adults look at this.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. They have this alternative life, right? This way they want to portray themselves as high school kids in these cliques, as a theater kid or whatever it may be, and then we get that little dose of reality of okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like if Timothy how do you say his last name? Chalamet.
Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah. Like if his character from Lady Bird was in Booksmart, when he walked into the room, it would start playing like an old Italian song, right? And he would have like a cool leather trench coat or some shit, right? And like there'd be smoke billowing behind him. But because he was in Lady Bird, he was just a dork.
I think, they finally get to this party, and Nick is like the king, right? He's not the president because Beanie Feldstein's the president. Molly's the president, but he's the vice president, but he's the cool rich kid that everyone loves, right? It's just he's the king, he's dancing, all this stuff. And they really turn this trope of kind of what you're talking about here of like, oh, you finally get a chance with the real guy or the real girl, very much a la Pretty in Pink, kind of way. But the, they kind of play with that, but here it seems a little different because he genuinely seems like he's into her, but is that just him being charming, or is he really into her? And we've come to find out. I don't know. It's still, even though he could just be slutty, right? I don't like it.
Totally. Well, but I think that what it goes back to is that to what you're saying, it's playing with the tone of stereotypes and saying deep down they're all still real people, right? So like Molly finding out that he likes Harry Potter, and they kind of talk about Harry Potter houses. Yeah. He guesses what houses she would have been in. And like, just those little moments make you go, yeah, this is what we always did in high school though, right? Is we painted with a broad brush of like, you're cool, you're not, right? You're a jock, you're a nerd. And everybody has these hidden depths about them. And even though we love Molly and Amy, they're totally hypocrites. Oh, yeah. And that's kind of what gets called out really early in the movie. Like that kind of is what leads us into Act 1, which I thought was funny. Because when it turns out that everybody starts telling what college they are going to go to.
Oh, that scene where in the bathroom where they don't know she's in there and they start talking shit. And she comes out and calls them on it. And they're like, well, you haven't done anything. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to the same school as you.
Yeah. And she's like, but you hate school. You're not good at school. And they're like, no, we just like other things too. And I think that is this is headed somewhere else.
That's an eye-opening moment for her character to realize like they've wasted these past 4 years. For what? To get in the same school. Like we had no fun during this time, which is just always a great, setting for a movie. Let's get to this, it doesn't work out with Ryan, who she has a crush on. They go swimming together and Ryan ends up making out with Nick, the other guy, the two that they're both trying to hook up with, conveniently hook up with each other. And so things get pretty tense at the party. They leave the party not together like they came, and they both have different reasons why. You hinted on this scene earlier, but when Amy hides in the bathroom with an even sexier lesbian, she's got this nervous first experience, but the outcome of her of this whole scene is like pretty much anybody's worst nightmare for a first time sexual experience.
It is so unfortunate.
It is. But funny.
But very, very funny. And exactly, I mean, again, something that reminded me of something like 40-Year-Old Virgin, right? Where we get these flashbacks of his character, just doing like the worst, like having the worst like sexual experiences, and you're like, oh yeah, that's what she's gonna.
But you follow it up with karaoke of will she go down on you in the theater?
Which I want to watch that theater kid sing the whole version of that, where his tongue is sticking out the whole time. That's just it. There are so many fantastic moments.
I agree. They really capture some of these really alone moments in this big party, right? I feel like when I was watching this, I was like, she's just sitting there by herself waiting. So is she, but they're not together, and they just feel super alone, even though they're at this party they've been trying to get to all night, and they're finally there, and they're worried about other shit. So pretty interesting.
It's so funny, dude. When I was watching this, I had to stop for a minute. And when I hit pause and looked, they were just getting to the party, and there was still like 35 minutes left. And I thought, that's super unusual. I was like, because, and having never seen it before, I was like, well, what the hell can happen at this party that has so many ups and downs after all the crazy stuff they've already done, right? And all the crazy things they've already seen. And I thought it was really interesting, just like, again, there's this moment where Molly does say, Zach, who has been her vice president this whole last year, and he's such an idiot, and she hates him so much, but then she has to confess to Amy that, like, well, maybe I do like him, but, like, I can't like somebody like him. He's an idiot. And she's like, and what does she say? Amy says the sweetest thing that a friend would say. She's like, he should feel lucky to be a footnote in your story.
Yeah.
Right? And which is like, what
shows you how tight they are. Actually, absolutely. I'm so glad you like this movie.
I was really, the very first thing I wrote down after watching the whole thing was just how disappointed I was that this thing isn't huge. This movie should be huge. It is easily one of the funniest movies I've seen in the last handful of years. Easily.
No, it's a great time, and
I enjoyed it.
It's a great rewatch too. As someone who's seen it 3 times now, I've had fun every time. So many great moments. So many great moments in this festival with these rising female filmmakers, or the A24 festival, if we want to call it that. What was the?
Technically, I don't think Babadook was one, but other than that, yes.
And that's probably Babadook's the one you haven't seen. Out of the 3 that you haven't seen, which one affected you the most, would you say? Between Lady Bird, Farewell, and Booksmart.
I think Lady Bird is the one that I've thought the most about.
Same.
That really felt like it stuck with me. And that that really resonated with my own kind of high school experience. I think I took a lot from that. The Farewell, I feel like I learned the most from. I really learned this idea of how you can tackle really complex cultural identity conversations with a movie that still feels light and fun. But I think I enjoyed myself the most with Booksmart.
That's great.
Booksmart it feels like one you could put on just like while you were doing other things, if you'd seen it before, and just like it will stop you at moments and be like, oh my God, I love this part.
Yeah. So, I hope these women get some really solid opportunities. I feel like Greta Gerwig's on her way. Already she did Little Women recently. as well. So, she's getting some pretty big budget stuff, I think. And
Barbie. She's got Barbie coming up.
That's right. I forgot about Barbie. That will be interesting.
Maybe it'll just be a long form scene from Booksmart of them just touching their own boobs.
Now we're talking.
Yeah,
so super excited for that. I'm glad we did this festival. I'm glad you liked the festival. I'm glad we picked these movies. I really hope they all get good opportunities. Next week, though, we are going to have one of our longtime listeners, Kelly Simpson, come on with us. She is a young woman in film school and going through a lot of this. So I think kind of getting her take on what the world's like for a woman in film school, all sorts of things. We're still kind of figuring out everything.
And what we've missed, I mean, we did these 4, but like obviously there's a whole burgeoning world out there of young female filmmakers that are doing stuff that we probably don't know anything about. So we figure she knows more than we do when it comes to that. So it'll be super exciting to have her on.
I will test her knowledge on that because I've seen everything.
Oh, and I've seen nothing. We're the yin and the yang.
You meant what you missed. Awesome.
I know what I meant.
Please like and subscribe, guys. Hit that notification bell. We love you. Thank you for listening. Next week, we're going to have our 101 about Rising Female Filmmakers with Kelly Simpson. And we haven't talked about our next festival. We should probably do that. So we will do we'll do one of those, a new festival as well. So thanks for watching. And we'll talk to you soon.
See you guys next time. I mean, we've talked about this. We talked about this when we did the Slacker episode, that it's like there was a time pre-internet the conspiracy theory stuff was like kind of fun and kooky to me. Yeah. And now I'm just like, if you are out there and you believe that what's happening right now is like the one world global cabal, like if that's really what you think is happening, like I feel so bad for you.
The Democrats did it all. They created a world pandemic, killing.
No, look, yeah, the political party that can't even get a president elected has somehow managed to get every human being on the planet to stay inside their homes. You are giving them way too much credit.
No doubt. No.
They can't even agree on a platform, man. Come on. How are they going to fake an illness of this size? Although, that kind of conspiratorial thinking, like the other day I was thinking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And remember, when they find out that the aliens are going to land at Devil's Tower, they say that there's been a huge chemical spill to get everybody out of there, remember? And there's that moment where
that's funny.
Richard Dreyfuss takes off his gas mask and he's like, the air is fine. I knew it. The air is fine, or whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's people that have been raised on that kind of stuff where they watch that movie and they turn to the person next to them and go, that's true. That's how they do it. That's totally true.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you watch the Corona Zombies trailer?
I haven't yet.
What? Oh my God. Do it right now. Let's do it now. Like
right
live.
now?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Breaking news.
Coronavirus.
Round 0 of the virus. This was taken moments ago at the Wuhan, China soup factory, where they were testing their newest flavor.
I can't even hear the audio, but I'm already impressed.
Shut down the goddamn soup pots now! Yes, Chef Donahue.
The infected are somehow transforming into violent and ravenous flesh eaters.
Corona zombies. Oh my God, are you seeing this?
The president has declared a nationwide lockdown. The Corona Squad has been assembled to help protect America.
Citizens are asked to immediately quarantine.
Haven't you heard of social distancing? 6 feet, kid.
Stop
touching your face.
I get corona.
Get drunk before everything closes.
Gotta stop this corona-tastrophe one way or the other.
I hate everything about this.
/ love it, you mean?
Soup-eating bastards from hell!
Oh.
Oh. So, what do you think? You excited?
So what I
It's
think,
like-
what I think is that there was some old zombie movie that they had footage of that they, because the one, like, you know, Playboy Playmate that's just in a room.
The main character.
Yeah,
it's the director's wife for sure.
it's the director's wife, yes, and she goes coronavirus, and then a minute later she goes corona zombies, and then like we hear 2 or 3 other really bad ADR voiceovers that are like, "Don't touch your face," and then another one says like, "Don't you know about social distancing? 6 feet, kid." Like, on top of a movie that's like 15 years, the rest of the footage is 15 years older.
They just put masks on everyone digitally.
That's amazing. I mean,
like, yeah, how do you make that movie? I mean, obviously it's very timely, but like, you're not even supposed to go outside. How are you making a whole movie?
that's because it's the director and the director's wife, like you just said.
For sure.
Yeah.
And they're setting up sets, and he's the zombie, right? Probably.
Yeah.
He's the one with the face, and he can make crazy faces. And I don't know. There's some of it where I'm like, how'd you do that? I don't know how you did that. And
It's
also
all 15-year-old footage. It's 15-year-old footage, and then those people, 2 people filming in their house. That's it.